6 plus 1 plus 3 should be 10. If you calculate, then answer is 10. Does it support multiplication? 6 into 6 is 36. Nice. 6 minus 6 is 0. Perfect. And then basically 6 divided by 6 is 1. Now, hello, I hope you are doing fine, and I really hope that you are enjoying my Rust mini projects. So today we are going into another project which we are looking to create a calculator, but not a simple CLI calculator. We are going to create a desktop application for it. So we are going to use eframe GUI, and let's dive into the project. So the first thing we do to create any project, we do cargo new calculator app and press enter. So this is basically, it will create a new calculator app for me, and then we can basically go into the application. Let me open the Visual Studio Code as well to write our code. So we are going to use the eframe GUI today. In the last video, we have already worked on the web scraper app, and I hope you enjoyed that video as well. So stay tuned. To start the project, we have to go to our main.rs file. So we use eframe GUI, right? So the first thing we need to do is basically to add the cargo crate. Before adding the cargo crate, I would let you tell something about eGUI. So basically the thing we are going to use today is like it's just a GUI framework for building interfaces in Rust. So eframe is a crate that wraps around eGUI to create the native apps for Rust. So basically the backend is written in Rust. So create cargo add eframe, and we've just pressed enter. So basically now we have added our crate into perfect. Now we are going to basically write our code. So now we have basically the eframe with us. It says unresolved import eframe. You want to use the cargo eframe to add card. That I already did. So it should go here and it should work like this. So basically it is still fetching the cargo metadata, and that's why it is not able to get the eframe, but it will. But in the meanwhile, let's create our structure. So the struct calculator basically is a structure which will hold our expression and the result. So calculator app, and we do two things: expression, in which it is string, and result, which is also string. Perfect. Now we have our calculator app ready. I hope you are able to understand everything here, because this is pretty simple and straightforward. That string is a basic data type that we are defining here, and then the expression and the result are two variables. Now we are going to implement a functionality for calculator specifically. So we are going to use a Rust trait called default, and we have to implement that default for Rust. How do we do that? So we do impl default for calculator app, right? So now we have to define the trait. So what this function default do is basically it will create function fn default. Now we have to write basically it returns self to it, so it will basically return the default value for the expression. So default value for the expression should be string : new, right? And similarly for the result as well, because as result is as well the string type, we just write string new. So basically this is what our struct, like the default implementation, is going to do. Then we need to write the one more thing which is really important. Now we are going to implement the application for our calculator app. To implement the application, we have to basically use the impl struct again. So we use impl, and then we use eframe : app for calculator app. So this implement the required eframe app for our GUI application, and the first function that we need to write in this is fn update. So we are going to write fn update. So let me spend some time on what this variable means, because this is really important. You have to understand. And why this function update is because it is calculated for every frame. So basically it will calculate it automatically when your code is running. Now, something which is like basically this is the mutable, which refers to the basically which it's a mutable because we are updating the state and it is to yourself. Then ctx stand for obviously the context, so this is the main handle to draw the UI, and it contains three things like theme settings, anything which you input and output, or access things to like window size or everything, right? And the last thing which is here is the mutable frame. So this means we have basically used the frame here, but we can also use like underscore, because we are not going to use the frame variable in this today video. And what does underscore means? That it does have a variable name, but we are not going to use it. But for example, this is frame like closing the window, setting the window size, setting the drag behavior, setting the app icon, all these things like lives inside this particular eframe variable, which today we don't want. So you see this is automatically calculated. You can see it as a loop which is just running in your code and calculated every time your code is running. So if you change anything, it will be recorded in this video. So now we are going to use our egui and create the central panel, which is nothing but default and default dot show, and it will take ctx and our UI, for which we are going to write a UI, right? Mutable UI type. It can be anything, I don't care about it. And this is perfect. So now we have created our UI and everything. And now the most important thing is that basically this is the main content area for the UI widgets. And now we are going to add our heading UI dot yeah, forgot to close it here like this. It is actually closed and it should have a heading window. Okay, it says something. Let's see what the error is. UI expected expression says Rust analyzer. Okay, I don't want to close this, and this is basically the function of it, and then it should get a heading. Now we are going to say it as Rust calculator. Rust calculator. And then basically it's a title window of your, and then UI dot text edit single line. It should be single line, and then basically we send. So basically it is creating a text editor which will basically accept expression and basically bind the expression to your mutable self, which is called expression. So basically it will store the expression whatever you write there inside the structure. So basically currently our calculator cannot do complicated operations. So currently it is just implemented for like plus, minus, simple operations. So whatever you write in the text window, it will be directly be binded to this particular expression, and this is what this particular line is doing. Now we have obviously we have a button U as well, UI dot button, and as soon as the button is doing what the button says, calculate. So whatever the button is doing, basically we say if it is clicked. So if it is clicked, then do something like basically we are going to create a function which will basically see whatever we are using, like the whatever we are writing will evaluate it and return you the result. So basically the self dot result will be equal to match of eval underscore expression. We will basically complete this in a bit, so you don't worry about it. This is basically a function that we need to implement, and then basically we write self dot expression, right? And if this return okay, because obviously as I told you, right, every function have a bit of error handling. So if it is okay, we just convert our value to string. Val to string. Just strange. It should be to string. And if it's error case, then basically we define our error case. We say format. So we say error is whatever is the error. Perfect. So we have created our, basically we have created our error handling here. This is what the Rust error handling looks like, basically, because evaluate expression is a function which we will just define, can result two things, like it is either it is positive use case or either it's a negative use case. Okay, so let me finish basically. So this expression ends here. Perfect. And then we just say UI dot label, and then we write something like format. So basically where you will reply with the result is the UI dot label, and what they are going to do, result. How does the result look like? So the result looks like comma self dot result. And this is how basically your UI label looks like. And I think this is part of the function, so we need to close the function here, and we are going to end the statement, and then this basically becomes part of this, and this is mismatch closing delimiter. I don't think so there's a mismatch because this is completely okay, and we have closed this thing here, so this is perfect. And then yeah, we will see in a bit. Okay, the first thing we need to also implement a function that this basically this implementation is doing that we haven't implemented yet is our eval expression, right? So as we told, it will take expression basically, and then it will return a result. Basically the correct value is f64. So let's say the float value, because you can obviously return like write things in float as well in the calculator, right? And here we are going to use a tricky thing called meval and eval expression, and we are going to pass our expression variable here, and the map error is basically, so basically the error whatever we are getting here, we will map that particular error to string. So we get e and we write e to string. Perfect. And then we close the bracket, and then we are done. Okay, it says expression here, expression basically cannot find, so okay, %str. Obviously meval is not able to find, and we have to use meval. If we are not able to find, oh, it's not user, it's use. Basically we always miss this thing, so it's always use. And I think we don't have the create eval as well, so that it is not working like this. So what we do is that we go to our here, we do cargo add eval. Perfect. So it works now. Let our fetch it everything, and let us see if we are able to use it. Everything is works or not. So it works. Cannot find a function in create well, okay, yeah, mistake. So the function is not this, the function is mstring eval string, and now it should work. Maybe I need to import it as well. Eval string. Now it says the map error doesn't match because it is map err, not obviously the error. And then it know what it needs to take, so it is taking e equal to error, and then e is equal to toString. Perfect. So this works fine. Now what we are going to do is to create a main. Now we have done everything what we need to. So finally we write the function main, basically, which is our entry point up to our code. So the function main returns result, and it would, you know, that the result is a okay condition, but in this case the error will not be of dynamic type but the eframe error, right? And then to configure a new window, obviously you need some size and everything. So for now we are just going to use a default. So I'm going to create like an option here, and in which I'm going to use the default values from the eframe itself. So how do we do that? We have our native options, and then we can use like default. So this will create our default values. Now we have to use eframe to run the native application, which check three things. The first thing is the app name. So give the app name, we say calculator. Second thing is a native option. For us, we have already options which we have created above, and this we are going to pass as native option. The third is the app creator. Basically, the app creator should be of your calculator default, but it has to pass differently, and it can be quite tricky. So just bear with me because this is the last line of the code. So we create the box new. We have opening bracket and the closing bracket. We just press enter here, right? We have the opening bracket and we have the closing bracket, and then we create our CC, which is nothing but basically creation context. So we say underscore CC, and here the brackets are like this. So these are the curly braces. So basically here we are creating a function. So what we do here is that to avoid the confusion, I will write a comma here, and this will go with our end of function, just to avoid the context, because as we are going to line really big line, so confusion can arise. Now we have to create a OK here, which will be of result type. Now, as you know, result type takes two things. The first thing it's going to take is box, and the box type will be of dynamic error here. In our case, it will be of app. Now this is basically the OK. If nothing happens, we create the app. If something bad happens, basically we send the error back. So in this case, the will be box dyn error plus send plus sync. Now what is basically we need to do? We need to create a new calculator, which is box new calculator app default, and we are done. So here we see some errors. Let's see what this error says to us. Is basically the result type is this. Okay, we don't need to write the result here. Actually, we just start with this, and now everything should work as expected. So this is the closing bracket of here, this is the closing bracket of here, and yes. So what this says, it says that split the comparison into two box instead of this and this. Okay, so it does says that we have to split the comparison into two. So basically what we think I need is one more bracket. One bracket is open here, one bracket is closed here, and this should be the one. This should, yeah, actually O should be capital here. Now everything works, because as I've written the O small, it doesn't recognize what I'm trying to do from further on. So to run our app, we do cargo run. Just let it run for a while. It builds everything. It will take all the things. It gives us that we are using two things which are not needed, but which is fine. Oh, we got our Rust calculator. So 6 plus 1 plus 3 should be 10. If you calculate, then answer is 10. Does it support multiplication? 6 into 6 is 36. Nice. 6 minus 6 is 0. Perfect. And then basically 6 divided by 6 is 1. Now, as I said, it only supports normal calculation. So if you give something like this, it doesn't work because it doesn't know what does a mod means, right? So we have designed a sample, desktop application. Now you can do anything you want, because there are endless things you can do with it, but let me know if you want something very specific. Then thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next video. Till then, have a nice day.